Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another exciting episode of Let's Talk Comics, the official Image Comics podcast where we go one-on-one with your favorite creators in the business to find out how they got in, why they got in, what they're still doing in comics, and what they've got coming up. I am your host, Jim Biscardi, and buckle in because this one is going to be a fun one. This is going to be a wild ride because we are talking to the one, the only Image Comics co-founder, Rob Liefeld. And we're talking about the return of Youngblood. Youngblood's a book that has such an important place in comics history because it was the opening salvo, the first shot fired out of the gun that was Image Comics. And it's one of those things where I think if you were around in the 90s, you understand the impact that it had. And then if you weren't and were a newer creator or fan or reader or whatever, then I think this is going to be a good kind of history lesson for you because Youngblood is everything Rob Liefeld is. It is bold, loud, unapologetic, and is a shining example of taking your ball and going to do big things with it. So now, 30 years later, Rob is back writing, drawing, and reigniting the world of Youngblood. And we're going to get into why the book mattered then and why it still matters now and what it's like to revisit the team that is so really close and personal to Rob. We're going to talk about process and legacy and how the movement that Rob, Todd, and all the rest of the guys started still fuels creators today. This conversation is everything you want from Rob Liefeld. It's passion, it's perspective, pure, unfiltered energy. So if you're ready, I'm ready. The blood is back, baby. Let's talk comics. Rob, welcome.
Hey, I'm on Let's Talk Comics. So let's talk comics, Big Jim. Let's do it.
We talked a little bit about this, and I want to give a little bit of background because when I did this show the first time, you and I barely knew each other, kind of from a hole in the wall, and because of that interview, we've gotten to become. I've been incredibly fortunate to consider, basically a hero, a friend of mine. It's so crazy to think, though, that when we did that was only about 10 years ago. And the industry has changed so much from even that 10 years to even the time, because at that point we were talking about your career basically up to that point. And you have continued to do it and do it at a high level. It's a question I'm sure you get quite a bit, but how do you keep it going?
Jim, I'm going to tell you, I remember meeting you, hanging out with you very well. That was just a crazy time, a crazy kind of transition time. And I don't know what happened in the last, in the last 10 years. I just became more, I use the word desperate a lot. I feel like, comic books, it's a privilege to tell comic book stories and to make comic books. And that is never lost on me, but it is also, it's hard work. It's a lot of work. And for whatever reason, my dynamic shifted. I became much more disciplined and I'm just blinking this thing away. I became much more disciplined and, just kind of acting like every page should be my last, every book could be my last. I don't know what it was. I just had a midlife kind of awakening and became a lot more, I use prolific, but just productive. I started doing a lot more work and it's, and kind of always with one foot in Image Comics. This is during the time we were still doing profit, at Image Comics, and we even launched a new Supreme with Warren Ellis briefly about 10 years ago. I revisited Bloodstrike. By 2017, we were relaunching Youngblood again, all while I'm still doing kind of some wrapping up some passion projects at Marvel Comics. but with Image always kind of right here, my arm around Image, because Image is, I have a real love for Image Comics and so many of the people that are there. And I'm so glad you're there. And you're on the team at Image Comics now, because I think you're one of the brightest guys in the business. And I believe that, from all our discussions. I mean, the comics industry is a weird place, man. And I mean, there's, the circle hasn't really, enlarged. The circle hasn't expanded as much in the last 10 years to where there's fresh faces that I needed to know. I think you were the last fresh face I met. You did your comicbook.com thing. You built that up. You made that an institution, and then Image got you, and you're here. And so now we can talk all sorts of business all the time. And honestly, if we could just fix everybody else's problems, I mean, what a great business this would be.
All right. Well, so we're here to talk about Youngblood and its return, but I want to talk a little bit first about Youngblood and its position really kind of in comics history, in a sense, right? Because it truly, what you and the guys did when you started Image, right, it truly revolutionized the business for the better. But I guess, like, when you look back, what do you think Youngblood represented in terms of independence and creator-owned comics, kind of back then?
Well, it's funny you should ask that. And look, we all liked doing superhero comics. I'm only 5 years into comic books. My lifelong dream of, at that point, my teenage years dreaming of being in comics, I break into comics. What I love is, more than anything, is superhero comics. I had a healthy diet of DC Comics and Marvel Comics, but really early in the late 70s and then early 80s, whether it was Warp Graphics with ElfQuest, whether it was First Comics, Dark Horse Comics, Eclipse Comics. First and Eclipse were quite a bit before Dark Horse. Dark Horse was kind of like the last new big player before Image came in and really just eclipsed everybody. But I was grabbing a ton of independent comics, educating myself in independent comics. I thought the world of independent comic creators. I don't really give enough. I gave a dedicated episode to Wendy Peeney and her ElfQuest, but she would write letters in the back saying that she was drawing them from her apartment, that they were starting on the next issue. She'd like talk to us like we were in her studio with her, and she's mailing them off to the printer, and you could sign up and get a subscription. So they were delivered right to my door because my comic store was spotty. So I'm like, man, this independent comics thing is really cool. And stores around me would start carrying more, and independent comics had superheroes like Nexus, like the Badger, both from Mike Baron. And I thought the world of these people who were making a name for themselves outside of traditional, the traditional big two Marvel DC. But the fact is, we broke through, myself and all the Image guys, and we made our names doing big time superhero comics. That's what we wanted to do. But only 5 years in, that wasn't out of my system.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I've been able to look back, especially over the last several years, and then recently, look, we don't have the Youngblood characters yet. I know that I just know these on the shelf behind me, but whether it's, what was happening right around then was Marvel was putting the action figures into play. They were, X-Force was getting its own first line of action figures, and that was put into development. If people would understand, that was put into development before X-Force #1 hit the stands. I was called by my editor and he said, "Hey, Rob, the toy people were here." Marvel had just launched their first line of X-Men toys. This is very important in terms of speaking to the perspective of what, suddenly becomes a possibility and may motivate you as it motivated me a little faster. So they're like, "Rob, you're going to be in the second wave." A second wave for me. I'm like, there's 30 years of X-Men toys to make. You've just made Cyclops, Wolverine, you've just done the basics. You're putting me before Havoc and Polaris and all these other, characters that I had deemed really important and wanted to see. But they're like, no, they thought your designs, your character designs really lent themselves to toys. And he said, it's Cable, Deadpool, Shatterstar, Kane, Strife. I'm like, wait, what? I mean, X-Force has not even hit the stands yet, but because the toys have to work about a year in advance in terms of sculpting, especially back then, it's faster now. The lead time was even slower back then. Well, so I've got all these other characters, and now I'm thinking, should I just keep feeding the Marvel pipeline with them? I've been very successful, given the Cable, and I mean, I got another one right here. I mean, given the Cable, and here's another. I mean, I've been living in this action figure world, and so whether it's Cable or this armored Deadpool, I mean, it's just a nonstop flow of toys, and I'm like, well, maybe the next bunch of characters I do, I should probably own more of. Because I've got a taste of getting an equity position in these characters I've already put forth. And look, it's Jim Shooter. We can't celebrate him enough. Jim Shooter saw the forest for the trees. Jim Shooter saw Eclipse. He saw First Comics. He said the competition is going to start offering things we can't. So we need to give creator equity on new characters. That is what I signed to have creator equity. Those are the deals that I was given in 1989 and 1990. So that people understand, because this is the most asked question I get. But after that, you're like, well, man, this is paying off fast. Deadpool is coming from the page to the toy shelf. And your listeners need to know also, the toy shelves are Walmart, our Toy City, our Toys R Us, our Target, all the big box stores had these X-Force toys. So I'm like, maybe I should make other plans and start doing this myself. I had 1,000 belief in myself, because the direct market, I understood it. I understood that there was a couple different publishers I could go to cut my teeth. I talked this over with Eric Larson, who had done Megaton Comics. There's another one. I had worked with Megaton Comics. Eric had done stuff with Megaton, with Eclipse, with First Comics. Eric had been around all the independent publishers. Jim Valentino had done work with Warp Graphics as they had expanded. And so Jim and Jim had done work with Eclipse. And so Jim understood all of this. And so I would pick at Jim's, brain, and Joy and I went to, down here in Laguna Beach. There is a art festival that runs the entire summer. It runs from Memorial Day to Labor Day. Jim Valentino's ex-wife, they're still really good friends. Diane Valentino has had her booth down there for 20 years. So Joy and I ran into her, and she gave us a big hug, and she was like, I remember when you came over and just kept asking Jim all these questions about independent comic book publishing. Well, what can I expect if I do this? And she's like, you were just so into it. Diane actually lettered the first Youngblood. So she was lettering for Eclipse and for Pacific Comics at that time. So they were a little comic book studio under their roof right there. So I had this curiosity. Eric Larson was immediately on board. Jim Valentino immediately on board. Let's go. Let's investigate this. We talked to Todd about it. Todd had, for all intents and purposes, he had retired with his last Spider-Man issue. He was about to have his baby, his little baby girl, Cyan, and he was like, I'm going to take a year off. He took a year off. During that time, so he crossovered with X-Force 3 and 4. So after X-Force 4, he retires. By X-Force 10 or 11, Youngblood's out. I mean, like that'll tell you how I wasn't waiting around. And I've joked, I just had this urge to take advantage of what was going on in the marketplace. I felt like nobody had ever done it before. Nobody at their peak, because Jim had George Perez and John Byrne in 1985 launched their own superhero books. I'd have bought them. And I'm pretty sure the entire market would have bought them. Frank Miller, right around this time, was doing Sin City. He was doing his serialized. People who don't understand, Sin City was started in Dark Horse Comics Presents as a serialized story that ran for many months before he kind of test marketed it. He test marketed it, and then that gave him the confidence. John Byrne was doing Next Men, and so they were doing it, but John Byrne for sure was not at he was not at the apex of his career when he did Next Men. That would be a few years. He would have to go back a few years. So nobody at their absolute peak had done this. So I wanted to try it. And everyone else looked to me as the guinea pig. And Jim, I didn't have any problem being the guinea pig. Jim Valentino was like, well, I really want to do this, but I've got such a great gig on Guardians of the Galaxy. Guardians of the Galaxy was doing great for him. He was writing it. He was drawing it. Jim had 4 kids. He and Diane were married, had a lot of mouths to feed. He had, had this great gig. Eric is writing and drawing Spider-Man. He's having a blast. And I'm sitting there going, I'm going to test this out. I'm going to test this out. Todd's like, we'll wait and see. I'm not sure. And no matter whether it's quotes recently in the Comics Journal or stuff that Todd has said online recently in some interviews, he's remembering a little more clearly. But let's be honest. When the numbers came in, it changed everybody's mind. Like we cannot dispute the fact that everyone's concern was, well, I'm having a really good time and these are paying a lot of my bills. What if this doesn't work?
Right.
And so suddenly I'm getting initial sales, the first dip in the water of 650,000. And I'll tell you, the guy, my phone never rang as fast as from Mr. Jim Lee, who was definitely not a part of it. Okay. So now Jim's like, hey, so I think, are you getting a buck a book? Yes, Jim, I'm getting a buck a book. Whoa. This is like, oh man. So at that point, I think Todd is like, okay, this is how I'm going to do this. But look, here's the thing. Todd has his own narratives that he shapes in the moment. And then from there on, I'm going to direct everybody as I did, because I did an episode on Image Comics, and I went to Jim Valentino's. I'm grabbing my Kindle. Yes, I have digital comics too. They're great, man. You can't make it to the comics for that day. Boom, I want that. Digital, last time I looked, never sells out. So go into my library, and here it is. Image Comics. Great book by Jim called The Official Image Comics Timeline. Let me see if my screen will die down. Nope. The Official Image Comics. Yeah, that looks terrible. But come on. Adjust.
I'll post it up in a clip.
Great. The Official. This by Jim really tells you everything that I'm telling you. Mm-hmm. And I hadn't talked to Jim in years, but Jim's stuff lines up. So look, what Youngblood meant, to finish it off, is I had more designs to share. And Jim, look, why do some of these characters resonate? Why? And I talk about this all the time. It is the visuals. The visuals. And I had really clicked with a visual style that people seem to respond to, whether it was Cable, Domino, Deadpool, Shatterstar. By the way, none of those designs look anything alike. They were all very signature, what I was interested in, an amalgamation of the stuff that I liked. So Youngblood with Die Hard and Badrock, Chapel, Shaft, it just hit. It clicked. I think it was the right book, the right time. I was the right guinea pig. And it really did become a tremendous disruptor. And I'm still doing X-Force while I'm doing this. It's a little more contentious. The temperature has changed at Marvel. And I know I've given you a 20-minute answer, but I had to cover. I want everybody to understand the path that got us here. Todd's retired. I'm not sure if Todd's doing Batman. He's even in the conversation, because that was something he was entertaining at the time. I'm not Todd. I've made it. I've laid it out. I'm not sure why he doesn't talk about it more. I've got the trading cards. He was pursuing a hockey trading card license. And made his pitch to the NHL. And I mean, I think when Todd finally did sports action figures and got to work with MLB and the NBA, and I mean, that Todd is a big sporto, so that was a component that he was investigating. Everything kind of fell into place exactly when it was supposed to fall into place. But these characters, Youngblood, the name, the title, and I think the movement, I think it really is representative of how much of a wow, what I just told you. What if John Bernard's peak broke off? Well, you found out what that would look like with my generation, because all of us were at the top of our game. We were at the top of the charts. We were the premier talent in the business. That's indisputable. The numbers will bear that out each and every time, no matter what anyone wants to retrofit. As you know, because we battle that a lot nowadays. People who I listen to people tell about the past that I existed in. I'm like, really? Wow. And you're 20 years old? So you weren't even born, but you're telling me how it is. No. So Youngblood launches, and Jim, what people don't understand is Youngblood had to go back to press. We sold out of 1 million copies.
Yeah.
So that really shattered the norm. And that day, retailers, I remember the distributor and Malibu Comics, who was the publisher that we chose to launch us in that first year, they're like, Rob, the phone's ringing off the hook. Like this is going to work. Because, everybody wondered, would this work? Yeah. And I think we've settled that 33 years in, and the fact that you work at Image Comics. Okay.
I want to talk about those designs a bit, because it's one of those things where it's been 30 years and still your original designs and costumes for the Youngblood team feel timeless, right? You've made tweaks and here and there over the years, but we're coming back, and everyone's got their original look. What is it about these designs that you think still resonates?
Jim, makes
okay,
so let's establish, I am unafraid. If you've watched my live streams ever, my whatnots I am unafraid to do what I'm about to do right here. Okay. And if you're hate watching, this is for you. This is for you. Okay. I'm not afraid to give myself a pat in the back. Look at that. Am I getting a pat in the back? Is that a self pat? Hey, sometimes you just got it. Okay. I can tell you guys who have terrible design sense, okay? My entire career, I'm like, that guy just they don't land. There are guys who it's not their strength. But being raised on a healthy diet of Jack Kirby and Dave Cockrum, the two best designers of characters and costumes in comic books, I mean, look, this is a grade school design. Die Hard is my oldest design character. Guy has a stripe down his face. He's kind of red, white, blue, and gold. It works. He is unchanged. Now, we do alterations of him, but the basic Die Hard model does remain. And then you've got, I agree, Shaft, just kind of same as he looks in 92. Sometimes I put a jacket on him. And then Badrock. I mean, look, Jim, returning to these characters and drawing them together, I think I needed to have a break for 5 years to realize, like, they just look great together. Sometimes, look, giant size X-Men, 1975, Wolverine next to Colossus, next to Nightcrawler, next to Storm. Wow. They just look great together. When the Avengers looks the best, it's Thor, Iron Man, and Cap. Boom. And those are all, so you got a technological marvel, you got a kind of an old time Buccaneer looking guy with a shield, and then you've got a Norse god. Sometimes you just hit on these formulas, and I happen to have just stepped into something. I was going to mention this a minute ago. So very few people in the mass market understand who Cabot Bloodstrike is and understand who Bloodwolf is. They don't have any media. They're not known outside of their comic books, but Loose Collector made these and they completely sold out. That we are having discussions right now whether we should take those back to press. But what happens in toys is the reason these sold out, and these weren't cheap toys and they're fantastic toys, but let's just go to the basic. Did they sell because they had some sort of intrinsic value, some heat coming off media? No, they sold because they look cool. Bloodwolf just looks cool. He looks cool. Looks cool. And that is the one thing that Todd and I always talk about. It's where he uses cool the most, and I forget how effective that word is. Looks cool goes a long way. Goes a long way.
What do you think Youngblood has to say to today's audience that maybe it didn't or couldn't in the 90s?
Oh boy. Well, Youngblood was at the center of, like, I was obsessed with the fact that if there were superheroes, how they would be treated. And if you read those early Youngblood issues, they had publicists, they had agents, a lot of that stuff, because I didn't expect to get an agent and a publicist out of Youngblood, but I did. And so suddenly I'm drawing on my, when Badrock goes skiing, that is a ski trip that Joy and I went on with my agent. And that's my agent, who's his agent. So I was drawing on real life. As we get deeper into it, we'll revisit some of those themes, but now I think those themes are more commonplace. I mean, you get the Fantastic Four film, or you get the Avengers film, or the Iron Man talking to reporters at the end of. So I'm not sure that's as fresh an angle as it was when I was doing it back then, on the scale that I was doing it. and again, I wasn't the first to do it, but I did it on the broadest kind of platform because we had so many eyeballs. But Youngblood is my love of the Avengers, X-Men, superhero team books.
Mhm.
And the dynamics of superhero team books are something that I am well versed in. And here's the thing that I'm going to blow your mind with. You know, I've talked to you about this a lot. I've talked about it publicly. People who listen to my podcast or follow me online in tweets are not going to have heard this for the first time. I was not aware. It took over a decade. It took 13 years for Marvel to inform me that I had the number one best-selling copy Avengers comic of all time. Now, that's putting into motion. Consider that they put Wolverine and Spider-Man on the team in 2005 and launched the new Avengers with all this fanfare, and it still didn't do what I was hired to do, which was restore Avengers in 1996. And so that Avengers, and it's been vetted. There's a website that like says you won't believe, and John Jackson Miller is comic books kind of historian and theologian. I mean, he comes at it from every angle, and he bared out that this, if you go back to the newsstand era, the earlier Avengers, even with the stuff that was going on in the newsstand in the 60s and 70s, Rob's like 400 plus thousand, 400, and I think it's like 420,000 Avengers is the best selling. Jim, Youngblood #1 sold over 1 million copies a month for its first year, every issue. So I am not only the best-selling Avengers creator, I also have a Youngblood, an Avengers-inspired comic that did like 600,000 more than the best Avengers number. So I kind of know about team dynamics and making them appealing and kind of staying in the game. And I'll tell you right now, Youngblood, the first 5 issues, is my love letter to all the team books that I grew up with. And really what Youngblood has to say to today's audience is strap on. We're going to show you some big dynamic superhero action. You know, Jim, if you go back and look at those Avengers that I love, let me just give you a history lesson here. And I give everybody a history lesson. Many times, and you can also see this in X-Force, I was already implementing it. Many times when the Avengers would have discussions or would be talking strategy, they're on a jet. They're already on the jet flying to the point of conflict. And Youngblood opens with Youngblood in a jet flying to a point of conflict. Recently, I got some comics and I'm like, why are the Avengers standing around for 3 pages talking? Like they should be in a jet flying to the point of conflict. Like move.
Yeah.
Action isn't just throwing fists. It's, you know, the Fantastic Four, the Fantastic Car was flying to and fro everywhere. Everybody has repeatedly, I believe, kind of bought into this idea that everyone needs to be standing around talking. And comics, especially superhero comics, I think the ones that I really like, they move. So Youngblood is my kind of love letter to the superhero team concept, and especially the stuff that I grew up with the masters who were doing it. And so, and again, there's great conflict that's going to come about. All of the stuff that I'm throwing at Youngblood, because by issue 2 of Youngblood, you will understand the big scope that I wanted to do a big scale story, bigger than any Youngblood story I've done before. And so that's what we're exploring in the first arc. And we get some radical changes out of it. We get some radical changes in the lineup. There's consequences. I think comic books aren't dangerous enough. And I think by Youngblood #3, you'll see that I am trying to make them as dangerous as possible.
So in saying that, then, right, in knowing what the atmosphere was like when you first launched it and talking about what the book kind of means then and now, what makes now the right time to bring Youngblood back?
Jim, I didn't know now was the right time. So this is where I'm going to, this last year has been, as a creator, tremendously humbling, and as a fan, incredibly exciting. I went all in on Youngblood, knowing, look, you know, and the people who know me know, my last year kind of agreeing to do work with Marvel was excruciating. I thought it was a really difficult time just because I no longer had any enthusiasm for what I had set out to do. I think if you want to go and have all of your creative energies drained, and be treated poorly, then Marvel is your best stop. I highly recommend go to Marvel, have your spirits dampened, and scratch your head every day. Like, why am I having daily fights on what I know is the best for these books? And so I was dead set on getting out of there as fast as I could. Youngblood had been, as I understand it, with my partner Scott Rosenberg, under contract for 5 years, and those 5 years were coming up. So he and I talked, and Youngblood would be the vehicle. And so, Jim, I just pulled them all together. I've had these stories for years. I was not able to interact with Youngblood, but so I put them back together, put them in the jet, flew them to the point of conflict, and we shared it in a direct to consumer platform. And let's be honest, just like a movie that's opening any given week, you look for your results, and our results were through the roof. The demand was overwhelming, and again, I've got the I've got the receipts in terms of, sometimes you go, I have to take a picture of this because I can't believe this is happening. When I called Ryan at Golden Apple, Brian Leibowitz, where I did my first Golden Apple signing, I think he was kind of like, well, what's so special about a 33-year anniversary? I'm like, just hang with me here. I think we can do really well. And he had some big signings last year. And he's like, Rob, this is our biggest signing of the year. Like when Joy and I, because she joined me that day, and there were a lot of family members, X-Extreme people who wanted to come, but people showed up. They wanted to get this Youngblood book, which it is the same book with some modifications that's going to be out in November. And then there's a retailer I really like in Arizona. I agreed to go to his place 6 weeks later, like late May and early June, and suddenly I got a 6-hour wait of enthusiastic people. And Jim, they're bringing their families. I met these guys are like, I bought your book when I was 15. This is my wife. These are my kids. This is my dad. He drove me to get your books. I'm taking pictures with entire generations of families. And it is humbling when you see the sparkle in the eyes of these now grown up, men and women who image was very important to them. And I think this last year sealed the deal for me. I understand. What happened in 1963 with Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, Avengers, eventually X-Men, the dawn of Marvel Comics, and Jim Valentino is one of those guys. He was pulling those comics off. He's the one of us that's old enough to have been there for that birth. And when they talk about that time and that incredible age, the birth of Image Comics, that first 2 years is to this base of comic book enthusiasts. It is that special to them. So, getting the band back together, and I think Youngblood reappearing at Image Comics. And I've shown people it's no big secret if you've already got it, but I can give people a sneak preview. We actually turn the lights on this sequence. I wanted to the first page of Youngblood. Wait, are they in a jet? They are going to a point of conflict. Just like the Avengers books I love. So Spawn, Shadowhawk, Ripclaw, Savage Dragon, the remaining original founders. I wanted to give them a shout out on page 1. And when people see, Youngblood, Die Hard, it's another piece back, and it's like reuniting a band. And look, I saw Oasis late last summer, just a few weeks back, and I told Joy, first of all, I didn't think they'd make it to the States because they always pick
that they were going to have an argument somewhere backstage, and it was just going to.
Jim, no one thought they were going to make it through the UK. Okay, suddenly, wait, they're coming to the States. Okay, they went. They did New York. They did, I think, Virginia. Okay, and And I told Joy, I'm buying the Saturday tickets because they may break up between Saturday and Sunday. Like, you just don't know. But seeing Noel and Liam back together, I mean, there were people crying. I'm not saying that's who we are, but we elicit a certain response, and there will always be camaraderie. And I think that is what Image just, it makes sense to me that the creators are so important in the eyes of the comic book enthusiasts, because Image is a creator based company, and you're supposed to come here and have great success. You're supposed to leave Marvel and DC behind. And again, I'll just inject it right now. If you are a veteran at Marvel Comics and you haven't given creator-owned comics a try, what are you waiting for? Now is the time. Now is the time to do it. You bring some of your best ideas, bring some of your best execution, and you'll get the same thing out of it that we are. And get into visuals. And I know I'm jumping ahead here, but you look at something like Jason Fabok's book. I don't want to misname it. Is it called Rook?
Rook Exodus.
I almost called it Exodus. Okay, so it's both.
It's both.
You look at that, and what I see is a great visual. First of all, I want to know these people look cool in this armaments and this gear. I want to know that. And Jason Fabok is a top tier illustrator. And then you got Gary Frank with Jeff Johns on Geiger, and now we got Dave Finch. Finally Skinbreaker. And Jim, it did occur to me, the best creators are at Image right now. This Image right now is boasting the strongest lineup of talent, doing some of their best work that I've seen since 1992, 1993, and it may be even better than then. But when you consider Ryan Ottley and Robert back together doing an Invincible adjacent book with Battle Beast, it's what it's supposed to be. And I had retailers on my show who were like, yeah, the Ryan Ottley Spider-Mans and the Ryan Ottley Hulks didn't get the same, response. Well, Ryan doesn't have the same constraints, can go lean into all his strengths, no constraints on what he does best when he's doing what he does on creator-owned work. So, I mean, I just feel like go ahead.
You set it up. You set that up perfectly for my next question, because by the time this comes out, we will have announced the basically Youngblood team up variant kind of campaign that is going to take over Image for the month of November. And with that, you get to see your babies through the eyes and pencils of some of the folks you just mentioned. Gary Frank, Jason Fabok, David Finch, Ryan Ottley. What is that like for you to see, just kind of like as a creator yourself, but also seeing your creations in the hands of some of the best in the business?
I'm trying to hold back a little swell of tears here. I said it about 15 minutes ago. This year has been extremely humbling for me as a creator and exciting for me as a fan. That is what I'm speaking of. When suddenly, and look, here's the deal. I realized the comics industry is in a different place than it was, even a decade ago. And part of your job at Image and my job as a creator, if we want to keep our jobs, if we want to keep doing what we do and do it well, is we have to reflect the marketplace. And I was leaving for my vacation in June and doing the last, I did 3 live streams this summer. We really dialed them down. I was just way too busy and I didn't really feel like I had the product, but I love the live streams because of the talk back and all of the people that are talking to me the entire time. Sometimes you get hundreds of people, if you're lucky, thousands, who are giving you their opinions. And this is right here on my desk. I bought this from Scotty. Really, really great Deadpool that Scotty did. You can go see that caption, but it's explicit lyrics, just like Taylor Swift. And and I had this over here, and I'm like, why am I not asking Scotty to do me a Youngblood cover? And it was during the live stream, and nobody will ever, they won't know this, but while they were all talking to me, I picked up the phone. It was 7:00 on a Saturday night. And I said, Scotty, can I get a Youngblood cover out of you, buddy? Is that possible? And he's like, for you, Rob? Yes. And then Scotty told me that Youngblood was his first non kind of kids comic. And then it was followed by Spawn. So he has a very specific relationship with our titles. And I was so honored, but seeing Scotty, having Scotty do Youngblood, that I'm like, Scotty Young said yes. And so, yeah, I get intimidated about talking to other really busy creators. So Scotty says yes. Then I'm on my vacation. I'm like, well, I got to lean into this cover thing. And hey, Kyle Nagu, hey, Ryan Otley, hey, Ryan Stegman. And I started building it out. And the next thing you know is you don't realize how exciting it is to see these guys illustrate your characters. So I'm sharing this with you and with Eric. And then Eric Stevenson, who I spent years with at Extreme Studios, he either wrote or edited every book we did. And we just had such a blast, and we really do have some really fun times from that period. Eric said, hey, Rob, I'm going to put the word out to see if people want to participate in this Youngblood team-ups. And I'm like, you think people will want to do it? And the next thing I know, he's sending me Brian Hitch, Redcoat running with Youngblood, Gary Frank, Shaft on the cover of Geiger. I'm getting David Finch, Chapel with Negan on The Walking Dead. I'm getting Jason. No, who else have I seen? It's just, my mind is overwhelmed with all of the incredible art. I saw some Spawn covers. So it has definitely humbled me that everyone agreed to do it, that they had the desire. And you can tell when somebody is up for something, you can tell in the execution. And I'm like, wow, maybe Brian Hitch's Youngblood is what I've been waiting for my whole life. Okay. So, and so then I showed him to my wife. And Joy is very non-engaged in comics. And she goes, that's cool. Is this kind of normal to have all these comics? I go, it's not normal, but this isn't the first time, but it doesn't happen a lot. And the results aren't always as spectacular as this. Because I know Image is really great at that. They've done it with Spawn, Walking Dead, others that I'm going to blank on. But having Youngblood greeted in this way with these Youngblood team-ups, and seeing them depicted by some of the very best. And Jim, that is, again, when you go, hot damn, Ivan Rice. Holy crap, I saw Ivan Rice draw Chapel. Okay? So it's like, hey, Image really does have the best and brightest in the business right now. When you look at all of Ghost Machine, and I think 2 years ago at New York Comic Con, we're coming on I think it's their 2-year anniversary.
Yep.
And you think about those guys, they stuck together. We heard the same whispers about them that we heard about us at Image. Oh, that won't last 6 months. Hey, these guys are double down. They're doing some of the most exciting, the best looking books. And that's coming out from Image Comics. And they are meeting a need. They're meeting a need artistically and a need storytelling and creatively that I don't think is getting met at the others. I really do believe, like, when I say that Marvel has seen better days, I don't care if all of your friends at Marvel are offended. They have seen better days. They are tired. All of them need a Steph Curry nap. They need a nap. Put all of Marvel in nap time. Jim's like, this is making me uncomfortable.
No. This is great stuff. Okay. Well, so I mean, you're right. Like I can only imagine what it was like for you, but I know for Eric and I, it was like being kids at a candy shop. Every time a new cover would come in, like there's one, the Kyle Higgins did for his Massive Verse books. That whole like connecting triptych is freaking incredible.
That was sent to me on a weekend. Eric, he sends that to me on a Saturday night, and I'm like, wait, there's Radiant Sun connecting covers with all of those characters and Youngblood. I really believe, is there, now you're going to make me want to name them all, but the ones that I have, I want to shout out. Is there, okay, I'm just going to my text. Sorry. Hello, everybody. This is what makes podcasting. I was watching a podcast the other day, and they're like, dead air. This is one thing you can do on podcasts is you can just have dead air and it's okay. And I'm like, okay, so, yeah, oh boy. Power Fantasy. That's the one I was looking at.
Oh yeah, right. The one by the cover by Casper Wingard. It was great.
Oh, Yeah, I'm just going to show it. There it is. Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. Jim will give you a nice shot because my screen is not cooperating today. Okay, so anyway, no, Jim, it's a thrill. It's a thrill. And Jim, so let's go back to I didn't expect any of this, and I do want to say thank you to Joe Casey, to Chad Bowers, to Jim Toe, to John Malin, to everybody over the last there's names I'm forgetting, but everybody who stepped in. And over the last 20 years, when I'd say, let's do a season of Youngblood, and we do a season of Youngblood. And then a few years later, we do another. We did a season in 2004, in 2011, I'm sorry, I'm missing the one that we did in 2007, 2011, 2017. And eventually you grow this catalog and you go, wow, we're almost at 100 books. We're almost at 100 published Youngblood comics. And Eric and I did that count. And that's the other thing I've been really liberal in telling people, that by the time we get to next April, which was not planned this way, November, launching Youngblood in November was because I was trying to avoid all of the giant launches from summer. And we all felt really good about November. And so then issue 2's out in December, 3 January, 4 February, 5 March, boom, April, 34th anniversary just happens to be when Youngblood will turn to 100. And that will be the culmination. It'll be the end of one storyline and the beginning of this new kind of age of Youngblood. But this is all I'm doing, man. This is where all my creative juices have been flowing. And it's just such a blast because there was so much more than Youngblood, as you know. The Extreme Universe built out pretty quick. Mm-hmm. And if you enjoyed some of those characters, you're going to have a good time. You're going to have a good time.
Like there were big players even, throughout the history of Youngblood that came to play in the sandbox, right? Mark Miller, Rob Kirkman, and Alan Moore, right? Like, and so that's, I love that you're going to get to a point where we're going to be able to look back at all of that stuff and do that. But I do want to talk to you a little bit about, we got to talk process a bit, because now, right, Robin 92 is different than Robin in 2025. What's your process like now for Youngblood? Like, right? Like what comes first? What do you do? Is it story idea and you just kind of, doodle it out?
Yes. No. I first I'm like, well, what do I want to do with Youngblood? And I'm going to tell you, especially last year, when some of my favorite comics, and look, there's a book that I was really anticipating that was coming out, in the last couple of weeks. It was an X-Men or Avengers comic, and it was just light on action. Big bit for me. It should have delivered. I don't know when this generation, I don't know when they failed to teach them how to throw a punch. The basics, the fundamentals of comic book storytelling. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't mind naming names. When the editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics sits across from you, the two key things that I'm like, I can't believe this was said out loud, was like, well, we don't really have a way to train these guys up right now. And I'm like, sure you do. You published How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. Send that. Make that mandatory. Not get the classic John Buscema, who's one of the greatest artists and storytellers of all time. Then the second thing was, we just don't really know how to do Deadpool and make him successful. And I'm like, you're revenue? Like, but sometimes you just like, again, take a nap. Maybe take a long siesta that requires leaving the company. But the thing is, I just feel like my goal with Youngblood is to first introduce this new storyline with a mysterious new character. And by issue 2, you're going to hear what the villain's plan is. And I would say it out loud and go, this sounds so outlandish. It's something that Grant Morrison would have come up with, because it's outlandish, and you're going to see what's going on in the bottom of in the hole in the bottom of the giant ship that's appeared, and it's crazy. So once, but what's going on is the villain is enacting a plan that represents a threat that he sees coming. So our villain is telling Youngblood, I'm putting this into motion, and there's a reason there's a boat in the middle of all this water. The water matters. It's none of it's random, and it is kind of preparing for the biggest scale story I've ever done, because I want to, like, look, Jim, I don't know how much longer I'm going to do this. So I want to do stuff, that maybe I haven't done. So issue 3 opens following up a sentence in issue 1 that said some of the other Youngblood members were off-world negotiating a treaty. We go to that treaty in the opening of issue 3. We are in outer space. It's a little galactic. And you then get a full measure of what is coming for Earth as they are encountering a wave of it. And so it all hits the fan, 3, 4, and 5. And what we have coming out on the other side of that is a story that kind of is it's not a reset, but it's definitely an evolution. And and then it takes the characters in different directions, and maybe some Youngblood members are not with us anymore. Maybe some Youngblood members have switched sides and are against us. So yeah, this is all me really wanting to go into the teeth, because whatever I've said, the Joe Casey and the Chad Bowers in the last 20 years, as you mentioned, the Alan Moore stories, Robert Kirkman did some Youngblood comics. Even my good buddy Kurt Busiek, who's so proud of the work he did. And all of these people, Keith Giffen, everything, people always ask me, well, which Youngblood stories matter? I'm like, they all matter. They all happened. Even if there was a cliffhanger and you never saw the resolution, that story was resolved. And I plan on telling everyone how certain stories were resolved, because that's what dialogue and flashbacks are for. But,
sure.
I've started with a giant story. I then do thumbnails. I draw it all out. And there are stories that have to get, I went plus 30 pages on issue number 1. I went plus 30 pages on issue number 2. I'm trying to keep issue number 3 at 25 pages. But if I need to go to 27, no one's going to tell me no. That's the beauty of Image Comics. Youngblood Strike File. That was my follow-up to Youngblood back in the day. And I was like, I want to do an all double page splash fight issue. And I did that. If you were there, issue 3 is an all double page splash. I'm like, if I'm going to have Super Patriot and Die Hard fighting, it's going to be all double page splashes. And back in the day, John Byrne did an all splash page issue. So I'm like, how can I go one better than this? Walt Simonson did an all splash page issues. I didn't, and you know what, Jim? Not one single person told me no, because the only guy who could tell me no was me. And I was looking in the mirror and I was saying, yes, Rob, go Rob, do this. So I planned it all out. I'm telling it on a big, what I would say is every issue of Youngblood is about 15 to 16 minutes long. But when you get the entire arc, you will have gotten, nothing in my book is slow. I don't have a Netflix episode that you're like, this is just filler. Get me to episode 5. No, you're going to be like, can Rob slow down a little? I'm going really fast with the pacing of these stories in terms of how everything is kind of coming together. But I am just really excited to implement the history of the characters, because the diehard fans, and they're the ones who have been so excited, they are loving this stuff. They are
not just the fans of Die Hard, but Die Hard.
There you go.
And
what Deadpool and my recent whatever what the success I had on Snake Eyes, with Major X. I'll remind people, Major X, every single issue of Major X had to go back to press. A book that Marvel did not believe in, that they put no special. We were basically treated like kind of a C-level comic, did A-level sales. And when I step up to the plate, I've had great success. And I truly believe that new fans, because I've already seen this, and stores have told you, they've told me, Youngblood back issues are like non-existent. They're very different, especially those comics from the last 20 years. Those 30 or so Youngblood books that came out in the last 20 years are really hard to find. I wrote some of those as well. And some of that stuff that I set in motion is also coming into play here. So, we as myself as a creator, Image as a publisher, we've got a lot of work to do to get these compendiums into people's hands. I was schooled. You had me do a retail session, And the number one thing that I walked away from the 3 different retailers who brought it up was like, we need collections. We need collections. And Youngblood, the deluxe editions, we're going to collect those, and you're going to get a trade paperback of the Youngblood Deluxes, which we all sold out of. But we're going to go deeper into the entire catalog over the next year and make sure that people get the history of Youngblood.
We talk all the time about how there is a lot of fresh blood in terms of new readers coming into shops because of things like Battle Beast or Transformers or Absolute Batman, right? How is this version of Youngblood perfect for those readers?
Well, it's a fresh start. Youngblood number 1 says, hey, this is Badrock. He's jumping into battle. This is what he does. This is Chapel. This is what Chapel does. This is Shaft. This is what Shaft does. I am trying to spoon feed you. Here they are. They're obviously on a team that's called Youngblood. They're going into action. Here's what each one of them does so that you can interact with them. Number 1s are great jumping on points, but like you and I, we encountered X-Men, Avengers, Fantastic Four, Justice League, likely in numbers that had 187 in them or 244. And if what's going on is exciting and the characters are intriguing, and that's what I'm saying, Jim. I won't, I think I've got a great resume in regards to, especially like this statue right here. I can, does your head come off? No, I won't do that. My designs have stood the test of time. I talk about visuals and I put a premium on visuals, and whether it's action figures that sold out, and these were giant units. Look, I talked about on one of my podcasts how I forgot I was getting comps, and I ended up getting 500 of each of these figures. I have 1 case left. I dropped off my second to last case of Bloodwolf and Bloodstrike, and you go, I sold, like, I never thought I would get through all those cases. People respond to good looking characters in motion and in action. And whether it's manga or anime, we used to joke about this. Eric Larson was a giant anime guy like me. And while I was, really into like Akira and Appleseed, he loved, what's the one, the Fist of North Star. Fist of North Star was Eric's. And he took me at WonderCon to a table that had a bunch of manga, I think around 1988. And he said, you should grab all these. I said, what's it about? He goes, every 10 steps he fights somebody new. And then he keeps walking on the road and another guy jumps out from behind the rocks. And he goes, and forgive me if I'm doing Eric and Rob in their late or early 20s. I would be in my early 20s. Eric would probably be in his late 20s. Eric would say, Rob, you know what it's like? It's like, ah, boom, 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 ah, scream, jump, fight. When I saw trailers to Demon Hunter, that's been number 1 for the last couple of weeks.
Yep.
I see a guy screaming as he jumps in the air with a sword and lops heads off. Ah, I mean, this is what we love. Screaming. Ah, boom, 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 boom. I see a lot of that in Battle Beast. The most dangerous version of Batman right now cuts your hands off, and he's 10 feet tall. We have entered kind of a new, and it happens. You have writers that think, hey man, you know what? My great idea is Magneto and Cyclops. And, let's not stop there. Let's get Wolverine and let's get Apocalypse, and let's bring them to the lunch table. And I swear to you, it's a lunch table. And let's have them talk to the delegates of the United Nations. And let's have them talk for 10 pages. I think I fell asleep on the page. I'm like, this is the No, mofo. This is the X-Men. This is the X-Men. Wolverine up in the freaking skylight about to pounce. What happens? What happens? Oh, geez. Is Wolverine having some action and slicing and dicing and having his way? Action-packed comics is what I was raised on. You can do tremendous amounts of characterization, conflict. Cyclops would always be saying, that you shouldn't have done that way, Wolverine, as he leaves the trail of bodies. And Wolverine would say, show me how it's done, bub. Let's go right now. The next thing, they're fighting. The next thing, the issue's over. Okay? Like, not, hey, everybody, we all got you some best prime rib to discuss mutant law and how it's going to affect you. Okay, stop that. That's not what these characters were created for. Magneto is meant to, throw tanks at you, not negotiate over a Happy Meal. Little editorial, little editorializing there, Jim. Just had to throw that in
All right. Well, okay. So let's to land this plane for you.
You want me to land this plane? Let's go.
Well, I mean, okay. So one of the other things that that's always kind of intrigued me about all of this is that no matter what, right? You always meet a challenge, right? And I think that kind of thing.
Yes.
It is fuel for the fire that burns within you. Was there something about jumping into this that like even gave you the slightest bit of caution?
Of course. Look, ripping off the I'm not saying ripping. I was about to say ripping off the Band-Aid. But I'm not going to look. You don't understand. I am the highest selling Deadpool creator. I am the highest selling X-Force, the highest selling. I love when people go, well, sales don't matter. Okay. That's a nice argument. That's not true. Why do we have charts? Why do we have sales analysis? I could sit here and tell you that Mad Men is my favorite show of all time, and people who don't, Joy and I have handed out the box set of Mad Men to all manner of friends who give them back in a week going, we don't get why we like this. We don't like this. And I may go, we will never speak to you again. Okay. Reminder to not have these people be friends. Mad Men is not popular. It's one of my favorites, and it won some awards, but the whole dynamic, and Robert Kirkman will tell you this, because I think AMC used to be like, Mad Men, man, we're getting 1 million people. This is great. Then Walking Dead showed up and said, we're getting 10 million people. And they're like, we're all in on zombies. Ad execs were fun. Ad execs, that was a fun age for us. Zombies, and meth dealers. Okay, because that guy from Breaking Bad's doing good too, right?
Yeah.
So, sales matter. And I have a history of unprecedented success with Marvel. And like I said, the last decade working with them was very difficult. It was always a fight, always a battle, just to get to me the most basic, just the most basic support. I'll say support. I always had to make some winning argument to some clown, who had some position, that would say, well, I'm not going, wait, so I have to beg for Scotty Young on a cover? Even though I've already talked to Scotty and he'd love to do a Deadpool cover, I have to beg with you and jump through hurdles. That got to be exhausting. Then it's well chronicled. People can make it about a party. Let's go there all they want. No, it's that I was at the biggest, and they knew it, the biggest hit of the last 6 years for Marvel. How'd that 2025 slate work out for you, Kevin? How'd that work out for you? I don't think all of them together made what Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm pretty sure I can say that. I don't think FF, Cap, and Thunderbolts together made what Deadpool Wolverine did. They did not look my way. They did not shake my hand. They did not engage at all. And that's when you're like, I would have to be damaged in some way to stay here. And I do believe that was manifest destiny, God, whatever you want, saying, Rob, leave. These people do not celebrate creators. This is why you left the first place. This is not a friendly place. This is a hostile place. So then, Jim, I'm like, well, I've been talking to Scott Rosenberg, and maybe we can get Youngblood going again. Youngblood that hasn't been published in 6 years. Yeah, that's my path. But I approached it with every ounce of great energy that I had.
Right.
And Jim, as you know, we have done phenomenally. And the Hollywood Reporter did say, when they covered the report, they said, Rob, we're going to come back and we're going to ask you how this did, because you said, like, especially during that time of bundled sales that the competition does. Hey, we're selling them for 20 cents on the dollar. We need that number. Get that number. We got that number. Do we have that number? Okay. I said, it's what the book makes that matters. Hollywood Reporter came back to me and said, Rob, before San Diego, can we ask you? I gave him the number. Staggered. We were also staggered. Now, that's because the base loved it. The base, Jim, the way I did the direct to consumer, if a cover sold out, I wouldn't reprint it. We'd go to another one. I'm trying to grab a couple down here. I mean, I guess I've already shared. Here's one. I mean, each of these were offered in limited capacity, and they're gone, and they're not going to be reprinted. I would just reboot, give a new edition, gobble, gobble, gobble. Everybody. After a while, you go. It's not for flipping. People adore this stuff. They want it. They're hearing about it. So I didn't know that this would be the path, but I am so thankful that this Youngblood and Bloodstrike and Supreme, all these characters represent what Image was about. Image was never about making a company for me. It was about a movement to empower creators. And when I see Ghost Machine or when I see Robert Kirkman, they felt empowered by what we started in Image Comics. And now they have a treasure trove. Ghost Machine has a treasure trove. Image does not own that treasure trove. They open their treasure trove and they go, I have a Rook over here. I have a Geiger. I have a Redcoat. And they can play with those toys. And like I said, they can take meetings and probably already have on video games, on action figures, on all these things that I'm sure are going to come out from that wing. And you can't do that if all you're doing is doing Spider-Man month in and month out. And if you're doing Spider-Man month in and month out, and as you've been drawing the page or writing the page and thought, man, what if I did my own, put some of my energies, you should do that. You should do that now. Marvel and DC are great platforms. Get your name out there, get known to the audience, to the retail community, do some exciting stories, move some needles, and then realize what you're capable of and go to Image Comics, where it is still the best creator deal. I cut a deal on Bloodwolf and maybe I'm doing a cartoon with Bloodwolf. Why? Because I own Bloodwolf. I own him. Broke the fourth wall before Deadpool. Fact, broke the fourth wall 4 years before Deadpool, okay? In a comic that sold 1 million copies. In a comic that sold 1 million. And I was just as surprised then. I was like, wait, Jim Lee and myself and doing short stories with Sam Keith is going to make 1 million copies? I mean, going back to that age, that age represents something special to an entire generation. And the new generation is curious. I think they're curious because they're bored. I think they're bored of some of the stuff that's going on out there. So they're naturally kind of seeking other stuff out. But Jim, yes, am I cocky? Of course I am. I didn't get popular drawing Spider-Man and the X-Men. I got popular and made my mark making characters, out of my brain on my notebook that didn't exist prior to then. And a lot of people, these creations at Marvel have created tons of jobs. They have created great paychecks for other people. That's part of the pride of ownership that I have with my equity position in this. Youngblood, similarly, also. Jim, we didn't ask Alan Moore to do Youngblood. You haven't gotten that call until he says, Rob. Yes, Alan, what's up? I don't know if you've seen what I've been doing with Supreme. I've seen it. Alan, it's great. I would like to do Youngblood. Would that be a possibility? Oh, did the guy from Watchmen just say he wants to write Youngblood? Eric said, that's what he's saying. Yes, greatest writer of all time. Yes. That's special. That's special, I guess that's the one thing I have on Robert Kirkman. Robert, you're watching? Did Alan Moore call you to write? Can we talk a little? Robert, did Alan Moore call you? I'm going to get this out. Did he call you to write Walking Dead yet? Because if not, I win.
What was that experience like? Like, how does that go? Alan Moore calls up and says, "Hey, I'd like to do this." Is this a thing where you just say, "Okay, great, go for it," or yes. was there collaboration on that point? And what do you learn from an experience like that?
He just said, "Here's what I'm going to plan on doing."
Yep.
Gave us an outline. Followed that up with, "I've also included an outline for Glory, and he included an outline for everybody." If I could have afforded him, we could have done it. I mean, Alan doesn't come cheap because he said, "This is my rate, pay it or leave it." We paid Alan the day his stuff came in. Send that wire. We made sure he was going to get his full page rate. He was our top paid guy. but I mean, Alan just was so that was about a 2-year experience because he wrote over 2 years worth of Supreme. And I think we got some of the very best Alan Moore when people who I know it hurt when people hurt to praise your name or your characters are saying it. I'm looking at you, Mark Wade, and you're going public and saying Alan Moore's Supreme may be the best comic being published today. I'm like, yes, yes, okay. Mark Wade, by the way, just dropped some news. When I was younger, doing short stories before Hawk and Dove, there was a short story of Justice League. Tried my darndest to get him to hire me. It's like, nope. I lost that job to Ty Templeton. It was a nice job. Ty Templeton did a good job, but it's like, I knew him when he was an editor, and we've never really had warm fuzzies. I'm getting something that I don't think I've told on my podcast, so I'll give you a juicy tidbit. They made us both guests of honor. I think it was whenever we got our InkPod awards, maybe it was 2012, and the Image guys, and then Mark Wade was seated next to me at the special section. That lasted 7 hours. I came back and he was gone. I said, what? They said, Mark requested to be moved. And I'm like, okay. So you go, some fires still burn, Jimbo. Some fires still burn. I guess when I replace you on Captain America, it's still a sore spot. But hey, you asked, I answered. Of course I got a chip on my shoulder. I'm an old ass man entering 41 years old, 41 years in the business, 58. Let's just say it. I'm 58 today. I'm doing this. There's a cake for me in the kitchen. I'm going to go put my face in after this. I'm entering 41 years in the business. I am still, doing very well. I love this business. I told you I love making comics. It is my absolute passion. It is difficult. It's hard. It requires discipline, but, there's still an audience. And there's still new tricks to be learned. Retailers I listen to what they say. They talked to us recently. Like I said, they gave us some good guidance, paying attention to what's moving with fans. And it's great when some of the stuff that's working is stuff you're already good at, right? Because that early 2000s slodge of Marvel where let's have everyone talking in courtrooms. No. I have a big David Mamet speech that I want to share right now. I worked all weekend on this 10-page speech. How'd you like to be that artist? I'm drawing 10 pages of guys talking? Yes. And everyone at Marvel's like, and this is the best shit we've ever done. No, it's not. That's not true. Okay? We don't want long speeches. I like my Daredevil when he's jumping off roofs with Elektra and he's hunting down the Hand. Okay? This is Daredevil at its best. Not, I need to argue count 6.A of the New York Legislative. Okay, those aren't my comics. What's right now is what I do well. Okay.
Well, so to wrap this up, so you can go finish celebrating your birthday.
You have a life too. Let's not forget.
What excites you about the future of the industry? Right, like we're in a spot now where we feel like it feels like we're really, there's hits that are starting to hit kind of across the board, right? But for you, what excites you about the future of comics?
So, truth be told, as I said, every day that I can make comics, I'm super grateful for. I have a lot of fun. I'm one of those guys who likes to talk trash. I think we've become way too. Everyone's too polite. I listened to the Taylor Swift album that dropped at midnight. I probably listened to it 10 times straight. Just kept repeat. Woke up, listened to it some more. Man, is she talking? She's talking so much smack. And I told my family, I love that she still talks so much smack. That's fun. So for me, I love that I can still be Rob Liefeld and do what I do. What excites me is everything we've covered. There's a lot of new fans coming in. Mm-hmm. There's a new fan base. It's turning over. It's turning over constantly. What's not driving them right now, I had a retailer yesterday said, Rob, I'm sorry I didn't make myself clear. Disney Plus is dead. Those shows don't drive any traffic to us anymore. Because we were talking about the fact that Doomsday is, 14, 15 months off. Like
Yep.
Marvel doesn't have another movie in the theaters, and I understand they've gone all in, but that those films are not driving the traffic that they used to. And so what's happening, I think, is much more organic, and people are discovering, like, I think the existing fans that we've talked about who are in their 40s, they, as people who do in their middle age, they double down on what they love. When I go to my comic store, it's a mixture of new people and a lot of people who look just like wrinkly old Rob. Okay, that they look my age because it's still their passion, and they've grown up, and they're doctors, they're lawyers, and they have credit cards that swipe. They're not like you and me, who are trying to get our lunch money in our teenage years, or mow more lawns, or deliver more pizzas and budget. These guys can buy anything. This is benefiting the comic book industry. It's 1000% benefiting. Again, if someone who's listening to this is, this guy is so full of himself. No, what I'm full of is the live streams where people talk back to me, and I'll say, hey, what's everybody's age? It's all 40 somethings except for the occasional 20 something. So we're getting a great blend. There's a great curiosity. And if you can show up with an exciting product right now, I hate calling it product. It's art. It's our passion. If you can put what's in your heart and in your mind, and you didn't phone it in, and you're passionate about it, and you put it on the page, and you get out there, and you let people know it's out there. Because that's the other thing, Jim. People have got to let people know. You've got to lean in. Maybe you're like, I don't want to work that hard. You better want to work that hard, because one thing that keeps me engaged is somebody else is working harder than I am right now. I can't relax.
Mm-hmm.
This business sleeps for no one. There is always another guy who's scheming while you're resting, and he's looking to take your position. He's looking to take your sales. He's looking, to storm the charts. So I love this business, keeps me on my toes, but the opportunities, not just the stores, what I just said, live streams. Collectibles are at an all-time high. We can complain that's kind of infected the business, and it is, again, we're very adjacent to the card collecting business.
Yep.
And anybody who has looked at what's going on in Fanatics, that's not going away. I believe that's only going to continue to increase. It's going to spill into our business. So, hey, if we've got to put special bells and whistles to get that stuff into people's hands, then let's do it. That's now, that is now the engagement of the day. Is maybe we have to work harder, but man, there's a base out there, Jim. It's exciting, and and Eric Stevenson knows. The stores have told. There are a lot of young stores. When I meet with stores, I'm like, hey man, I realize you weren't alive when Spawn #1 launched. You weren't alive when Youngblood, so I can't draw on your excitement from that day. I just need to deliver today a product that you can get excited about, and be thankful that it has some history and some back issues that we can get into people's hands. So, Jim, the answer is going to be the same. The audience, the opportunities are there. It's very exciting. As I said, heading into year 41 of my career, I think the future is bright.
Perfect place to end. Rob, you're always a mensch. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, man.
I just want to say that Spider-Ham is an all-time great design. Spider-Ham. And I don't know if Jim turned me off and we're not recording anymore, because that's a real bummer that I didn't fit it in beforehand. But I've been, Spider-Ham is on my desk. So if you think, Rob's just tooting himself all the time. No, Spider-Ham is an all-timer. They put Spider-Man on a pig and it rocks. I bought this. I love this. Okay, guys, we're a visual business. How great is Spider-Ham? I'd see that movie. I know he's in the multiverse. I'd see more. Okay, Jim, thanks for having me, buddy.
You're the best, man. Well, there you go, everyone. Rob Liefeld. Getting to hear Rob talk about the original spark of Youngblood, what then, became Image's creation, and then, the career he's had since then, and the career he's continuing now, and the discipline and purpose that he's kind of carrying into this new era. It's kind of hard not to feel that excitement all over again, because this new Youngblood is not just nostalgia. It's evolution in a sense, right? Like Youngblood being back at Image, the home it helped build, surrounded by, a next generation of creators, folks like Otley and Fabok and Gary Frank, who are all, doing exactly what Rob and the founders set out to do, tell big, bold, creator-owned stories that stand the test of time. And so I love being able to walk down memory road a little bit with Rob. Rob is always a blast, and you got to try hard to keep up with that energy, and it's just stuff that fuels me every day. So big thank you for listening. You know the rules. If you're listening to the show, take a screenshot, share it on social, leave us a review on iTunes, leave us a rating on Spotify, share the show with whoever you think may be interested in this, and keep on reading comics, because if you keep reading them, we'll keep talking about them. We'll talk to you next time, folks.